Welcome to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
And this is Chris in South London.
Welcome to our second episode. How's it going, Chris?
It's going good. It's going good. Yes, I think we're kind of getting more into the flow of things, it's good to have got another Doctor Who book out the way.
Indeed. This is the second episode where in a moment we'll be recapping and reviewing Gary Russell's 12th Doctor novel, Big Bang Generation. Note the lack of definitive article in the title. But first we wanted to maybe start a new segment called What's New? We don't have a good title for it yet, but what's new since we last chatted in the past month? I've got a couple of things to talk about. One is that I bought a 3D TV, which are, I guess, on the way out. They aren't being made anymore in 2017. So I found a 2016 model kind of on discount, and it was that little sweet spot where it does both 4K and 3D. So I've been going a little bit nuts in buying 3D movies. And to tie it into Doctor Who, the 50th anniversary, of course, it looks really good. The 3D nowadays is much better than what it was when this whole thing launched with active shutter glasses and stuff. Now it's pretty much just as you see it in the theater. And the Dark Water, Death in Heaven looks pretty good too, even though that one I think was post-converted.
Yeah,
but super excited about that. So I've been getting a lot of old movies that were shot in 3D, like in the 50s and 60s and 80s, which have been pretty fun to watch. Another new item in this past month, I picked up the Hartnell reprints. So the first three William Hartnell stories were released as hardcover reprints using the original artwork from the pre-Target novelization days. They look absolutely gorgeous, so I was glad to pick those up. And then the third item that I'm excited about, besides Doctor Who coming back soon, is there was a Kickstarter announced for Riff Track. So those are the one of the teams that do Mystery Science Theater 3000. They announced that they're going to be riffing the 5 Doctors in a worldwide kind of I don't know if it's worldwide, but at least in the United States. Tickets go on sale April 14th, so just as this podcast is posting, I think, through Fathom Events, and it's going to be broadcast live on August 17th, which is a Thursday evening, and the rebroadcast will be August 24th, also a Thursday. And they've previously riffed both of the Peter Cushing Dalek movies, which are a lot of fun to it's an interesting way to experience them, let's say that.
Yeah, and I think the 5 Doctors is very riff trackable. For more on the 5 Doctors, listen to our previous episode.
How about you, Chris? What's new and exciting?
So, we have new Doctor Who, and I remember the 90s. So it's always nice to be in a month in which there is new Doctor Who coming out. Because I remember years in which there wasn't any new Doctor Who content on the TV, and kind of the. Also, our understanding, and sort of a little bit of inside baseball, we're recording this a little bit in advance, but there was kind of news that will particularly be of relevance to some of our discussions last month, in that Bill, our new companion, is gay.
Oh, I didn't know
that. Yeah.
I heard it here first.
Yeah, and apparently it's made quite clear in her second line of dialogue.
Oh.
And this was sort of announced by the BBC. Because obviously they did a press screening or something. They're prone to do these things, about sort of 2 to 3 weeks out. And I think it's wonderful. It's really good. Yeah, let's hope that Bill is a good companion that nobody gets annoyed about, because it'll be a shame. Because it's sort of like, oh, this is a hostage to fortune, isn't it? Yeah, so
Well, that's really cool. Hadn't heard
yeah,
that. So
yeah. I saw that on my phone this morning when I woke up, and I was like, oh, okay. Right, well, we're going to try and squeeze that into the podcast.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
And there's the book we're reading for this month too, Benny's son, I believe.
Yes.
And kind of speaking of, so our book this month is Big Bang Generation. And before we get into the plot of it, I just wanted to talk briefly about Gary Russell and some of the other work that he's done over the years. I had first met Gary back in 1999 at a regional science fiction convention that I've been involved with for several years here in Minneapolis called Convergence. And at that convention, he had launched the Big Finish Doctor Who audios. He had the first episode of Sirens of Time about, I want to say, 2 or 3 months before it debuted, so we all got to hear it. Evelyn Smythe was created at that convention in the hot tub as a bunch of fans. I wasn't present for that, but you can read a little bit about that story in the acknowledgments of, I think it was the 9th Big Finish, her second story, Spectre of Lanyon Moore. They talk a little bit about that. Fans who have gone on to be authors like Catherine Sullivan and some other folks were involved in that conversation. And I think it started out as, how do we get the Sixth Doctor from how he appeared in the previous season to how he appears in Trial of the Time Lord, and the idea was to feed him lots of chocolate cake from Evelyn, and that was kind of how she started, and they wanted to go with an older companion too. But it's funny, every time I go back to that convention, I think of Evelyn a little bit in that conversation. Gary's done a lot of work. He's done some nonfiction work, including a book about the 8th Doctor TV movie called Regenerations. He's written for the Radio Times 8th Doctor comics. He edited Doctor Who magazine for a stint, and he was really the showrunner for Big Finish for the first 100 releases or so before Nick Briggs took over. And I think I had mentioned last month that I've read Invasion of the Cat People, Legacy, or his novelization of the 8th Doctor TV movie, and of course most of his Big Finish output. In fact, I think my first work that I experienced of Gary's was his Destiny of the Doctors computer game back in 1997, which he wrote. And then
Nancy Ainley's final contribution to the franchise.
Yes, yep. And I think you can see those video clips on the DVD of Survival, as I think they're the special feature there. He also worked on Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood, and directed the 2 animated Doctor Who episodes, Infinite Quest and Dreamland, with David Tennant, and of course the excellent Gallifrey audios. Which, if you haven't heard, there's one series of that which features an evil version of the first Romana, played by Mary Tam, pitted against the second Romana, played by Lalla Ward, and it's just exquisite. It's like Dallas or Dynasty levels of of fighting. It's really fun. One time, I think it was at an LGBT science fiction convention called Galaxicon, I had asked Gary, because I was trying to understand how he exactly worked on Sarah Jane Adventures. I asked him what his biggest contribution to that show was, and he said it was getting Nicholas Courtney to appear in season 2. And he said that had he not been in his role, that appearance likely would not have happened. Nick Courtney's final appearance to thank him for as well. So Gary's, shall we say, been involved with Doctor Who on and off over the years quite extensively.
I first encountered his work when he was a child actor.
Oh,
because he was in the Famous Five, and which I don't know how familiar that franchise, for want of a better word, is in the States, but it's one of these things that's kind of drilled into British, particularly English children, and yeah, and he played, I think it was Julian, I think, maybe. Anyway, he was one of the kids in that, and also he was, as well as the editor of Doctor Who magazine, he was the reviewer for many years. And I remember one of his comments, because his review of the book of Remembrance of the Daleks, and he sort of said that that there was somebody who read some of his Doctor Who books on the slides. So this was the first one that felt like an actual novel, and I kind of imagined as being like a Mrs. Hudson figure, sort of reading books, which I think sort of probably says more about sort of my 10-year-old self. Yes, it would be natural for there to be a landlady figure who will read the books. Yes.
Yeah, the famous five isn't very famous in America, but we have our kind of literary equivalents. I think for American listeners, it would be similar to like the Bobbsey Twins or the Boxcar Children, those sorts of books where you have young groups of teenage kids solving mysteries.
I'd say Hardy Boys.
Oh yeah,
but possibly not quite as gritty as the Hardy Boys. Not that the Hardy Boys did gritty anyway. Anyway, we are digressing wildly. Yes. Yes, Gary Russell, top bloke, and knows his stuff.
And kind of returning to the setting of the book. Yes. Gary Russell lived in Australia for a couple of years when he wrote this. And by the way, there's an endnote in the book for our listeners. The book has 14 chapters and an endnote, and the endnote, which kind of Gary describes how the book came about, isn't included in the audio. So I had happened to have the paperback as well, and I kind of flipped between the two throughout as I was checking like pronunciations and spellings. He lived in Australia for a couple of years. He worked with an animation company down there called Planet 55 Studios on a 26-part animated series, which is currently airing on ABC3, called Prisoner Zero. I wonder where they got that title from.
Sounds familiar.
And I think he first started working with Planet 55 in his role with Big Finish or with the BBC. They had done the animated reconstructions for the Moon Base and the 10th Planet. And I think they were working on the Underwater Menace when they got the call for their pickup for Prisoner Zero, and that may be why the animation was abandoned on that release, and they ended up going with the Telesnap reconstruction to get that one out the door before DVD was gone entirely. And I think, too, with this book, we should mention that it's loosely related to an earlier book that Gary Russell did called The Glamour Chase with the 11th Doctor, and it's also loosely part 2 of a 3-part 12th Doctor trilogy called The Glamour Chronicles, which in turn is based on concepts first introduced in a 10th Doctor and Donna story called Ghosts of India by Mark Morris. So it's kind of like a sequel within a sequel within a trilogy.
But also, though, without wanting to jump too far ahead, I mean, it can be enjoyed on its own merit, because I quickly realised I didn't have to kind of do a lot of Wikipedia diving to figure out what happened in previous stories.
It does feel very, very standalone in that sense, and I think the glamour, which when we get into the plot kind of acts as almost like a MacGuffin. It could, or is.
It's the most MacGuffin-y MacGuffin.
Yeah, it could have been anything.
Yes. So
it's very, very loosely tied to those earlier books. And then the other thing, just a couple of other things to mention before we get into the plot. The book title is Big Bang Generation. It's the title of a Duran Duran song, which is on their 1997 Medazzaland album, which also gets name-checked in the book. And I don't think this is the first time Gary's done this, where he's used like new wave songs or lyrics in his chapter titles. But every single chapter title in this book is based on a Duran Duran song or an album title.
Okay.
A couple of the locations are named after Duran Duran side projects. So we'll get to a building called the Power Station, which is
Right.
which is a 80s supergroup, and then the name of the hotel in the book is called Arcadia, which isn't named after Gallifrey's second city, but is named after another spin-off group from Duran Duran in the 80s called Arcadia.
It also does feel like the sort of name that a hotel in Sydney would have.
It does.
Yes.
So it may very well.
Yes. By the way, Australian listeners, brace yourself. This one's going to be partially set in Sydney, so, as we've kind of alluded to. So yeah.
And the other thing I just wanted to mention real quick is this book is on the shorter side too. It's
yes.
The audio narration ended up being about 5.5 hours, and to give you a comparison, James Goss's recent Douglas Adams City of Death, that was close to 10 hours, and Ghostlight, which is a Target novelization, is just under 7 hours in length. So it's pretty short.
Yeah.
All right. So shall we begin?
Yeah, let's begin. We start off with a little bit of a cryptic conversation between two women. I'm curious as to how this plays out on the audio, but because you have two women speaking to each other without much in the way of description, and there's some references to sending postcards to lure an unnamed man, and they're going like, well, this is going to be the Doctor, isn't it? In the book version, one of the women is from the future and speaks in italics, which is helpful. And so she transfers a rock to the woman from the past. How do they do this in the audio?
Just by Benny talking to herself. Really, it makes it seem pretty clear who's speaking. Just if you've had any exposure to Lisa Bowerman's performance as Benny before, it makes it somewhat clear what's going on. But that is nice that one side of the conversation's in italics, because that did get pretty confusing. The older Benny from the future is kind of outlining like, hey, something big is about to happen to you, and narration outlines out like 6 different timelines or time frames, I should say, where the story's happening. So we have prehistoric times, which I think is 36,000 BC, which I had to look up. I didn't realize that Aboriginal, the people in Australia, had migrated something like 50,000 years before, a lot earlier than I had thought. Then this next time frame is in chronological order, is 1934, where you have a German archaeologist and his family arriving by boat to Australia. Then there's a little bit of a side quest where we get 3 different postcards, one from 1969, one from 1991, and one from 2001. So put a pin in that. And then we have 2015 in Sydney, Australia, where the majority of the book takes place. Then we have a reference to the 27th century, so the 2600s, and the planet of Legion, where Benny is living with her son, and that's where the younger version of Benny in chapter 1, that's kind of where the story begins. Then there's an off reference to the 36th century, which there's a group studying or arguing about the glamour, which was kind of a one-off, and it never came back in the novel. So I'm wondering if that's a tie-in to one of the other books, perhaps in the trilogy. And then the final time frame we get is in 5066, which is kind of River Song's era, where you get the Church of the Papal Mainframe. So all of that is outlined in the first chapter.
And in the bit in River's time, we see that at Stormcage #1, someone's turning down an application to borrow River Song, which is a little bit of an allusion to some of the behind-the-scenes stuff in the book, because apparently Gary Russell had originally intended to use River and was told that no, they had other plans, which went on to become the 2015 Christmas special. There's also a sneaky little reference to in the section, I think, to Skyray lollies. Because that bit under 36th century or whatever it was, I think it was there. It was like one of these sections. People are talking about the kind of like the great writings of the Skyray lollies, which can only be a reference to a series of lollies in the UK in the 70s and stuff that had comic strips and the like. So
in the I think it's in More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS, you get a couple of the commercials for those Skyray lollies featuring a different actor playing the second Doctor. And then in that same paragraph, he name checks a bunch of unofficial Doctor Who publishing houses too, like Mwick Publishing, which I think did the biography of John Nathan Turner. And then he also references the Obverse Publishing, which has been putting out the Iris Wildtime books too. So then, once we have that conversation with the Doctor and Benny, or sorry, Benny and Benny.
Yes, Benny and Benny.
not the Doctor and Benny. Once we have the conversation with Benny and Benny, we cut to the Doctor meeting Carrie the Packar.
Yes,
who's about a 4 foot tall kind of hamster guinea pig looking reporter who I was first introduced to Carrie in a Big Finish's first subscriber exclusive before they even got the Doctor Who license. They did a audio with Benny called Buried Treasures, where they had 2 short stories, one of which featured Carrie the Packar, and that was my first experience with Carrie. And then shortly after that, I read her appearance in Legacy, where she meets Benny for the first time on Peladon.
Carrie, there's two interesting observations. So at one point, she's actually referred to as Kerry Packer, not Kerry the Packer. At least in my ebook version, there is there's an Australian media figure called Kerry Packer. I guess that the pun is deliberate. So he's kind of like I was going to say like an Australian version of Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch is an Australian version of Rupert Murdoch, but Kerry Packer didn't really kind of travel in quite such a way. Aussie listeners, again, there'll be a few little references for you later. I seem to remember from about the time of kind of Legacy that Gary Russell said that Kerry was based on a friend of his. Oh. Bear that in mind as we go on.
So they're on the planet, and we should mention the planet Legion is kind of a backwater planet. It has a very slow rotation, so it has a dark side and light side to the planet. Carrie's leg is broken from ice skating, and she's showing the Doctor these 3 postcards. And one, I think the one from 1969 referenced Tea with Charlie, but I couldn't tell which Charlie that was, if it was supposed to be Charlotte Pollard or someone else.
I wondered whether it was supposed to be Prince Charles.
Oh.
I wondered. I don't know, but on the ice skating thing, there's an excruciating pun that's really, really laboured. So basically, it's a living ice planet where she has her accident. That the Doctor is called Torval and Dean, and Torval and Dean are a pair of Olympic ice skaters, and sort of they are probably one of the great British Winter Olympians, and that pun, it's hinted at, it's then explained in depth, and it's like, oh, right, okay, we're labouring this one to death. Yes, sorry.
The postcards,
yes.
The Doctor didn't send them. He's a little bit perplexed by them. There's a reference to an adventure that Carrie has with Sarah Jane and Luke from the Sarah Jane Adventures. I'm not sure if that was an adventure we've seen or heard reference to. I can imagine it's an off-screen one, because I don't think the Sarah Jane Adventures had the budget for a 4 foot tall hamster. We later learned, by the way, and I didn't know this at the time, that the bar that they're in, kind of a dive bar, called the White Rabbit, is owned by the Doctor's brother, Irving Braxiatel. And he's absent throughout the entire story, but there are a couple of references to him, and that he owns the bar later on.
Is he named? He's hinted at a lot, but I can't remember what he's actually named.
They start saying his name. They start saying Irving, and they get the IRV out, and then they're cut off.
Yeah, so I almost wonder whether there's some kind of licensing thing or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's made so there's a whole series of audios. There's a Legion box set where Benny and her team that we're introduced to in this book, where Irving is in those audios, and he is the owner of the White Rabbit. But yeah, it's interesting that they don't explicitly say that here, and maybe it's because they don't want to go down the whole Doctor extended family route in the in the officially licensed stuff. It's hard to say. So then we cut to we jump in the future where we're following the kind of the trials and tribulations of Cirrus Glob, who's he's a human grifter from the I'm not sure where exactly he's from. They make reference to a human colony called El Diablo. There's a woman named Kick the Assassin who's a Spyro. She has a silver mohawk. She is a kind of a turquoise reptile with hollow telescopic bones, and so she can kind of stretch her limbs like I guess like Dalsum from Street Fighter. I was kind of picturing Ventress from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, or if listeners who grew up in the 80s might remember Huntera, she had a white mohawk on She-Ra.
I thought you were going to say Storm. Storm from the late 80s. Yeah, late 80s X-Men.
Kick is a self-described weaponista assassin who knows how to use weapons, and she has a contract on Cirrus, and she's trying to kill him, but the papal mainframe intervenes and stops her attempt on his life. He ends up getting sentenced to life in prison. Kick only 3 months because they didn't catch on that she was an assassin. It took her about 2 years to track him down, and they're placed in adjoining cells in a storm cage facility where they're delivered letters and released by their cells, their guards having been paid off by a headless monk who we've seen in the new series. And the letters inform them that they have to work together and go to a planet called Aztec Moon to steal something. Yes,
steal an artifact from another wing of the church. And so we then go on to Aztec Moon. Is Aztec Moon a Duran Duran song?
I'm not sure if it is or not.
Okay.
I know that. So this one also has a. Instead of a light side and a dark side, this one has a wet side and a dry side. So a side that rains all the time and a side that doesn't. I'm not sure that weather really works that way, but it is interesting. And there's a giant alien black pyramid named the Pyramid Eternia, which gets discovered on Aztec Moon. Which has a time portal inside of it, and that's where the older Benny was speaking to the younger Benny in the first chapter. We're introduced to a group on Aztec Moon, and I was kind of thinking of the team from Tomb of the Cybermen, where you have some of them kind of military, some of them not military, and they're looking for the archeologist that they had booked, River Song, but she's interned at Stormcage, and her request to be let out was denied.
Yes.
So a little bit of meta there going on again.
Yeah. In this kind of group, we have Professor Horace Janssen, who likes to wear tweed and is described as looking like something from the aristocracy planets, which is, it's nice that the aristocracy have planets of their own, isn't it? Aztec Moon itself, I mean, it's described at one point as being as having like a red rock. And it almost feels like if this was a TV episode, this would be filmed in Australia with the Aztec moon bits as well, using kind of like the red soil, as well as obviously the other, the blatantly Australian bits. But yeah, in the same way that the Planet of Fire has Lanzarote and an alien planet looking not unlike Lanzarote. But yeah, because I do get like a Christmas special vibe from this.
Yeah. The military is from the Church of the Papal Mainframe, and is similar to the group of soldiers that we see in Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone. And Octavian, who is from Time of Angels and is River's kind of church handler, he gets a mention in this as well. And so rather than River meeting up with them, Benny kind of waltzes up and says, "Hey, I'm an archaeologist, but probably not the one you were expecting." So we get that nice tie back to Night of the Doctor.
Yes.
So everyone's looking for the glamour, which is this stone or rock. I don't think they ever settle on a name for it in the entire book. We cut back to Legion in the 27th century, where an upright pink crocodile alien this upright pink crocodile alien hatchling takes the Doctor's sonic from him, and the Doctor gives up his sonic to avoid a fight, and we get a nice little bit where the Doctor acknowledges that the TARDIS could just grow him a new sonic, and the Doctor and Carrie start tracking the sonic, but they get a text telling them to head to Sydney in 2015 instead.
Yeah, he's also it says here that that Legion is the kind of place that he wouldn't have visited 3 or 4 regenerations ago because he wouldn't have dared. Which, well, yeah, I suppose the Ninth didn't really go too far from Earth on TV. And it also explicitly says that he has an urge to avoid retreading adventures from his 4th and 5th incarnations.
That's a sensible policy, I think.
I think so, yes. Because let's put it this way, yeah, four Adventures of the Fourth, those have been retread quite a few times. He also has a job loss of kind of cell/mobile phones from a man in Houston. I don't know quite who that man is, but yeah, those sort of cell mobile phones, those become a little bit relevant later on.
Yep. And at this point, too, we're introduced to Benny's team. So I wasn't super familiar with any of them because I'm pretty familiar with Benny up until the point where she gets married. And then after that, she has a whole series of adventures in books and audios that I've read summaries about on Wikipedia, but I'm not super familiar with. So Benny has a son named Peter, who's half human teenager, half is described as almost like Rottweiler. Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, he's gay. He's in charge of security on Legion. I was kind of picturing Channing Tatum's character in Jupiter Ascending. I don't know if you've seen that, but he's like a half werewolf kind of character with pointed ears and teeth. So we're introduced to Peter. We're introduced to Ruth and Jack, who are a couple. Ruth is in early 20s. She's described as a spoiled princess type, so it's kind of getting like a Nissa vibe from her almost, but her mind was wiped, so she in a previous adventure, so she doesn't really have memories about that. And then her fiance is Jack, sometimes goes by Spring Hill Jack, which was the name of a serial killer, not unlike Jack the Ripper. I
don't know whether Spring Hill Jack was necessarily a serial killer, but it was certainly this thing that there were kind of sightings of in Victorian times, and as recently as I think the 40s up around Liverpool way, showing Liverpool. Yes. Anyway, I won't go there. I was going to say something, but our Merseyside audience might be rude. Yeah. So Spring Hill Jack is a thing in kind of British Victorian mythology.
He looks human, somewhat. You might not clock that he's an alien, but he has I guess, grasshopper-like legs. So he does jump about quite a bit, kind of Linda Carter, Wonder Woman style.
Yes, he also has glowing red eyes, which is another thing that Spring Heel Jack had. Yeah, sorry, Spring Heel Jack was a kind of an obsession of mine about 10 years ago.
We learned that Spring Heel Jack was the one who sent the postcards earlier, not the Doctor. And as we mentioned, he's engaged to Ruth. Their team almost reminded me. I was getting very much almost like a Sarah Jane Adventures vibe, where you had Benny in the Sarah Jane role as kind of like the mother figure to these three, and they're off doing adventures. That dynamic, at least to me, seemed very similar between the two groups.
Yeah, I can see that. I was also getting a bit of a vibe of kind of like a Marvel Comics crossover, where you're kind of being introduced to these various characters. And I'm like, yeah, okay, no, I don't read this comic. I've got no idea who all of these people are. Thank you for that. This sounds very strange. But yeah, I think it's quite hard to do, because to introduce the backstory because you have to kind of rush through, because quite a few people will have no idea who Benny is, let alone her current supporting cast. Yep. Yeah.
So the Benny and her team, they were summoned there again. So they were summoned ahead 20 centuries to River's era by finding a chip of the glamour. They think it's a fragment of it. We later learn that it's not in fact a chip, but it's a time echo. I don't know. I think that might be a distinction without a difference. But regardless of what it is, they had dug it up on Legion, and more on that later. They had dug it up on Legion, and that caused them to jump ahead the 20 centuries to the Pyramid Eternia. We should mention too that this lodestone, or the glamour, really functions as a key to the Pyramid Eternia. So it's inexorably kind of tied to the pyramid, which is why it keeps coming up again and again. Kick and Glob show up, and Benny's group uses a similar style of sleeping patch Clara tried to use against the Doctor in Dark Water. Similar sort of thing, to put the group to sleep. Peter, Benny's son, he goes off to track Glob and Kick, who are meeting Professor Horace Jansen, who are also trying to find the glamour, as we talked about. And Benny has a bit of a reminisce about her travels with the Doctor, and then she's confronted by Kick. And then the book kind of went into this weird thing where they started quoting an unearthly child back and forth to each other, and I don't think the aired version, but the pilot version.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, where they just talk about being born in another time, in another world, and that whole exchange was kind of, I found that odd.
Well, Benny's also coming off quite doctory at points, sort of particularly when she's kind of confronting the church here. We're also explicitly told that she still looks to be in her mid-30s, despite the fact that her real life, her real age would be kind of 50s, and that's because of the effects of TARDIS travel. And there's this kind of implication that maybe age might catch up with her quickly and violently, which is kind of nice. Because one of the things because I didn't know whether or not the Big Finish audios with Benny and her crew were still ongoing. So I didn't quite necessarily... Because whilst I was reading this, I was kind of thinking, if these were standalone characters that weren't in someone else's kind of like toy box, this may well lead to something. But kind of conscious of the fact that things might need to be reset a bit, I was kind of like, okay.
They in kind of compressing stuff here a little bit, they find their way into the pyramid. The pyramid vanishes, causing most of the military folks that are outside the pyramid to fall into the hole where the pyramid was left, and they all die.
Yeah, and in the pyramid as well, there's a whirlpool, which there are kind of future versions of Benny and her team, and the and the future selves also at one point their clothes sort of like change by magic, and then we're kind of told, oh, this must be where the future selves do the postcard sending. So yeah, it's really quite timey-wimey.
Yeah. And then we cut to planet Earth, Sydney, New South Wales, Australia.
Yes.
in 2015, the Doctor runs into Ruth and Peter. Christmas is in full swing, so that means it's sweltering out and it's full summer.
Yeah, we get into quite a critique about kind of Australian Christmases and the fact that it's all revolving around wintry things. And yeah, he's not wrong. I've spent Christmas in Australia. It's weird. Sorry, Australians. So there's not been any effort to adapt. So you see these choristers wandering around in their kind of fur coats and stuff. I just go, yeah, this is bizarre. Why are you doing it this way? Also, this first encounter is in a gift shop. I think it's fair to say we don't go too far outside of the tourist trail in Sydney and New South Wales as a whole. Yeah, if you're expecting some kind of hard-hitting expose of what it's like to live in Sydney, this is not your book.
Yeah, that's a good point. Gary does show off quite a bit of local knowledge, but it is somewhat confined to the more mainstream kind of touristy areas. But he does offer quite a bit of commentary on what he thinks of like how the tree leaves look, and and whether or not they catch rain, and interesting things like that.
So when he's encountering Ruth and Pete in the gift shop, Ruth's pretending to be from working class London, which is quite a nice little gag because Benny has been doing that for years, going all the way back to Love and War, where she greets Ace with, was it, "Cool blimey, love a duck." So it's nice that Ruth is learning from Benny. Also, the Doctor is being observed by an Indigenous Australian in a white shirt and chinos who will keep on popping up from time to time in a mysterious way.
They go to, I guess Sydney also has a version of the White Rabbit, which presumably is also owned by Braxiatel. It's a kind of a dilapidated shop that's covered in a perception filter, referred to as a shimmer almost, to make it look like something that it's not, and that's where the Doctor is meeting these. They kind of go to a cafe, and then a pyramid appears in Sydney Harbour, causing the crowd to start running away from it in shock, and the Doctor of course runs to the pyramid, and someone else is running to the pyramid but is slightly in front of him and pulls his hand to help him through the crowd, and of course it's Benny, and the 12th Doctor and Benny get to meet for the first time.
She remarks here that last time she saw him he was younger, shorter and Scottish. Does this contradict the Dying Days? Or
perhaps she's...
or McCoy, yeah, maybe they've met out of sync. And we're also told that Jack is kind of being perfectly charming and sort of indicative of his species, and apparently is the reason why so many of his species work in the law, accounting, and IT. Which I go, yeah, that's flattering the audience, isn't it? I work in IT. I don't know if I necessarily describe.
I was going to say, and I work in law, and I would have the same opinion.
So I'm like, really? Okay, Gary. Yeah. I think we need to go and work wherever Gary has had these encounters in the past.
When we first, just jumping back a little bit, but when we first meet the Doctor, he's reading one of the Wizard of Oz books, which, if you've heard Gary talk at conventions, he's an Oz fan, and I think that was one of the ranges he kept pitching to Big Finish to do an adaptation of all the L. Frank Baum books. So he's I found it kind of interesting that he had the Doctor reading an Oz book in his spare time. So that kind of brings us to as they're looking at the pyramid, they're captured by Glob and Kick, who have traveled back in time along with them.
And Professor Janssen as well is there, and so because we said the pyramid is actually it's in Sydney Harbour, quite close to the bridge, so which is convenient for the cover, and is also, again, we're very touristy in this book. Mm-hmm. And we also have a little cutaway with a cop talking to a wino called Jared about the pyramid in a scene that is just that feels like padding, to be fair. This cop does rock up again later, and he never does anything particularly exciting and relevant, but anyway.
The Benny team and Glob and Kick are kind of making their way back to the harbor near the Opera House, and Benny and the Doctor have a bit of an exposition conversation. This brings us to our dramatic reading for the month, where we pick up on a conversation that the Doctor and Benny are having about their present situation. We'll be playing a very short excerpt from the BBC audiobook, utilized under fair use for review purposes. The BBC audiobook narrations, if you haven't heard them, have music and sound effects to help kind of round out the listening experience. And we should mention, too, that the Big Bang Generation audiobook is available wherever audiobooks are sold, including on CD, iTunes, and other download services, and may also be available as a streaming selection on Audible. Lisa Bowerman, the voice of Benny herself here since 1998, provides the narration this month. Let's have a listen.
The Doctor just stared at her, closed his eyes, took a deep breath, opened them again, and looked at her without smiling. "I liked you in the 27th century," he said. "I feel safe with you in the 27th century. I don't go to the 27th century anymore." Bernice just beeped his nose. "You miss me. Now tell me how this pyramid is going to blow up the universe." "Oh, that's simple," he said, carefully wiping the end of his nose where Bernice had beeped him. "The ancients of the universe manipulated all of time and space for their own ends, then vanished, leaving their famous Pyramid Eternia to be stayed away from. The youngest time-taught on Gallifrey learnt that, because what you are referring to as a lodestone, what others called the glamour, or the stone of destiny, is an incredibly powerful key. And what do keys do? Lock things up? Leaving them safe? Or unlock things, leaving them unsafe? Especially if you remove the key. So imagine that, by taking that key away, inch by inch, or rather microsecond by microsecond, what you were opening was a portal to all of space and time. When it comes crashing through, it reverberates throughout all of space and time. And, Professor, as each bit of space and time touches another piece of space and time it wasn't supposed to touch, they annihilate one another. And in the space of about 3 heartbeats, past, present, and future are nullified. The Big Bang never happened. And yet, at the same time, it happens in every microsecond like a chain reaction. The universe is... What's the phrase I was looking for? Oh yes, gone. Then we need to stop Glob and Jansen or whoever getting into the pyramid and stealing your key, Bernice realised. Which, of course, we already did. But it wasn't the real key, it was a temporal echo. And the real key is here, and the Pyramid Eternia has come back looking for the key, and we need to place the real key in the place of the echo key and stop the universe going bang. Spot on. Why here? Why now? I mean, what's so special about the key in 2015? The Doctor shrugged. Haven't the foggiest. Well, then you're a fat lot of good, Bernice said. We need to find someone who does know. She looked at Professor Horace Jansen. If he knew, the Doctor said, he'd already have it in his hands. But what Horace Jansen actually knows about anything can be written on the back of a postage stamp. We need access to the repository of all knowledge. The Matrix on Gallifrey. The Doctor opened his mouth to speak, but didn't. Bernice reached out, took his hand. I'm sorry, what did I say? Gallifrey is... The Doctor tried to find the right word. Missing. Bernice clearly wanted to ask 1,000 questions about that statement, but let it go. Just squeezed his hand a bit tighter, unsure if she was comforting him or herself at that moment. Bernice was immediately focused, all banter aside, as she started making a plan.
Okay, so we just heard the Doctor and Benny have a conversation where they mention that Gallifrey is missing, and we get some kind of cool moments between the Doctor and Benny, and the Doctor mentions that he doesn't travel to the 27th century anymore.
Yes, that was quite sweet and touching in a way. Yeah. Also, the Doctor has kind of sent a photo of the pyramids to Kerry using a smartphone that can go across time in the way that phones have been doing ever since Christopher Eccleston's time in the TARDIS, and we also have a bit of kind of a FaceTime session with Kerry, and Benny then blurts out the book's title in a way that doesn't feel at all clunky, because there'll be repercussions all across time and damage to the web of time, and we will be the Big Bang generation or something. I was like, yeah, clunk.
And Benny's a little jealous too that she doesn't get a phone of her own.
Yes, yeah.
Which I agree. Why doesn't Benny have a phone?
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, he's only just gotten from this bloke in Houston. We're also told that 2015 is an uneventful year historically, which this book was written in 2015. And gosh, isn't that true based on what happened last year in both our countries?
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah. The calm before the storm.
Yes. Yeah. The calm before the idiocy. Anyway, yes.
The 12th Doctor is described as, or he's assessed, I guess, as by both Kerry and Benny as being less patient and grumpier than all of his other incarnations, and they do mention that they liked the other one with the Scots accent much better.
Yes. Kerry also starts looking on Gal Wiki, which I don't know if it's a Time Lord wiki, and she finds a reference to the glamour being found 100 years before in Australia by an explorer. So yeah, basically she's Oracle from the Batman comics.
She's providing galactic wiki support.
Yes. And suddenly the reference goes, showing that time is changing. Has Gal Wiki ever popped up before? I don't.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
No.
First time I've heard of it, it was in this. So they end up escaping from Glob and Kick. One of several times they escape from their clutches in the book. And as Peter's looking for Benny, he does like Spock-like ears. He hears the TARDIS disappearing in the distance. It's a sound he recognizes, and it turns out that the Doctor and Benny travel back to December 1934, which is where we get the German family going to Australia. I think he's an archaeologist, and I couldn't tell if they were Jewish. There were a couple references to them being potentially in danger in Nazi Germany, and I couldn't tell if they were one of the kind of the outgroups, and they were trying to get this rock to curry favor with the kind of the occult wings of the Nazi party. Couldn't tell there. My understanding is that this was kind of I don't think that they are Jewish but Hitler isn't in charge. So it's his predecessor, whose name escapes me, and apologies if I'm getting my German history wrong. But his wife's father has sent them there in case the Chancellor falls, and then the kind of hardcore Nazi nutcases sort of would take over and be unimpeded. So he's kind of realizing things are going in a bad way, and there you go off to Australia and sort it out, and just be away. So that was kind of my understanding. But at one point I was wondering whether they were supposed to be Jewish, I must say. They meet up with the Doctor and Benny in 1934 as the Doctor and Benny basically tell them, like, point and say, the rock you're looking for is buried right over here.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a missing scene there where I was really hoping to get Benny's reaction to the new TARDIS interior. I felt like there was an opportunity there for some more conversations with just the Doctor and Benny, particularly because they're in the TARDIS together by themselves, away from everyone else. I thought that was a bit of a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, I mean, given the padding that we've had elsewhere, that would have been quite nice. The Germans also have an Aboriginal guide called Louis, who matches the description of the of the gentleman that was observing the Doctor earlier, so in the chinos and things, and he protests about violation of sacred lands and just disappears. Yeah, he's a trope, isn't he?
Very similar to any number of like Native American spirit guides that you see, or
So my wife's Australian. I talked about the character Louis with my wife, and she used some strong Australian language. It's really into. I don't know. His character. It would have been nice if it's great to have an Indigenous Australian character. It'd be nice if it wasn't a kind of spiritual, all-knowing, mysterious-y person. Yeah,
who vanishes while you're not looking, and
It's just like all the cliches.
But anyway, the Doctor Thomas and his party, who, as you mentioned, they have, in addition to the Aboriginal guide Louis, they have a manservant and 3 workmen also, and the rock gets dropped or thrown to the ground, and it creates a shockwave that erases, much like we got last month in Engines of War, erases the manservant and the workmen out of existence. So the non-speaking people all get erased.
Yes, and the wife suddenly it basically becomes Indiana Jones, and the wife kind of turns violent. She tries to grab the rock to help restore her father's place in the party as well. We're just like, oh gosh, really? Okay. So and she in turn gets kind of she doesn't get erased from history, but she just kind of she is also wiped out.
She's on the edge of the shockwave, so her erasure isn't quite as extensive. So she blinks out of existence, but they're all able to still remember her. Whereas I think it's only the Doctor who remembers the other 4 that were there earlier.
Yeah.
They tell the German to keep the rock in New South Wales because they'll need it later. Sorry about your deranged Nazi wife being murdered, but we gotta jump back to 2015.
Yes.
So it works. The rock stays in Sydney. The descendants create a museum and keep it there. So now they know where the rock is. They travel back to Sydney in the TARDIS and join up with Benny's gang, or kind of like the Scooby gang in Buffy, I guess you'd say, or Glob and Kick are nearby because Peter smells them.
Yes.
And they call a meeting, and Benny kind of poses as she is wont to do, as a con artist, looking to get into Glob's gang. And we get a reference to, I think it was Ace stealing an Omega device on Skaro, which
yes,
I don't know if that was in reference to a book that I didn't place, or what that was in reference to, but
it's an audio. I think I've not heard it, but I did have a little look around to see what all that was about. So we then find out that because it's now, isn't it, that the Doctor and Benny decide to kind of break into the museum because they've managed to identify which descendant of the Germans sort of has a museum, and kind of assume it's going to be in there. Yeah.
Ruth kind of rappels down, from the ceiling, Mission Impossible style, to try and to snatch the glamour. But by that point they're discovered, so she just breaks the glass, and alarms start going off, and she gets yanked up the rope, and they do the same. They do the same trick again with the knockout patches to escape and render Kick unconscious, which I think is their biggest threat.
And Benny's also given the guards laxatives, which was a lovely touch.
Yeah, I can't remember if the scene or if it was earlier where, in order to escape, Peter lets out a dog.
Oh,
Yeah,
the dog fart.
the dog fart,
Yeah,
which was just like, oh, really? Gross.
Dear. It's it's like that terrible two-parter from Chris Eccleston's time.
Oh, the Slitheen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Which apparently was when Lawrence Miles decided that the new version of Doctor Who wasn't quite so bad. I thought, really? Are you sure? That feels like a
I was going to say most fans, I think, waited till Dalek or Empty Child to make that determination.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, also, Jack has started musing about retiring and settling down. It's like, oh, okay. That's ominous.
They're all running away from the heist that they just pulled off, and they decide to they've booked a hotel room in the Hotel Arcadia. Glob and Jansen follow them. Kick is still unconscious, and they decide to book a room in the hotel right next to the Summerfield hotel room. So the receptionist at the front desk wasn't respecting Australia's privacy laws, I don't think.
Yes.
And then we get a scene where Ruth, Jack, and Peter are all sitting around eating pizza in their hotel room, kind of examining the glamour. We get a little bit more about Peter's backstory, how he was in a Bastion slaver pit for a year, and how his boyfriend had died there, and there were vampires involved. I'm assuming that was other audios or books.
Yeah.
And Peter wanders off, though Benny and the Doctor arrive, kind of realize they don't really have a plan as to what to do next.
But also, though, we've been having some violent shaking. So the Doctor is reckoning that we might be about to kind of like run out of time and stuff. But they're still having the pizza just to sort of celebrate. I'm like, okay, urgency, folks.
Yeah. The Peter's wandered off. He's found his way to a nearby police station where he's sniffed out Kick the assassin, who had been picked up there and brought the local jail or drunk tank, as it's called in the States. And Kick doesn't need help getting out. She breaks down the door. Kick and Peter have a bit of a fight in the lobby where Peter stuns all the police officers with his array of different weapons, and Kick breaks out and heads out on the street, and Peter starts stunning bystanders in the street, and it's kind of a big fight in the police station, and they don't realize that other cops are being called.
But also, Kick has, shall we say, amorous intentions towards people. Well, not so much amorous. She just wants to mate and have his children, because despite him making it very clear that this is not on the cards, this is a thing that then just kind of runs throughout their scenes for the most part.
Yeah, you get this undercurrent of kind of tension / it's a little creepy.
It's quite odd.
Yeah. Kick tries to pickpocket Peter and kind of kisses him, and she mentions that her and Glob didn't buy that, Benny and her gang were a bunch of con artists. Kick mentions that she has no intention of going back to Stormcage, and she wants to leave with Glob instead. Peter stuns Kick with kind of a trick. She was stunned by the item that she had pickpocketed, thinking it was something else. Peter leaves the station with kind of Kick slung over his arm, where he's confronted by SWAT teams in a perimeter. He's saved by a pyramid-inducing earthquake, which kind of shakes everyone up. And meanwhile, at the same time, the Doctor and Carrie are talking via speakerphone, discussing Jansen, and Glob storms the room, having checked in next door, smashes the Doctor's phone into pieces, so they no longer have their Wikipedia connection.
Yes. And, getting a visitation vibe here with the sonic screwdriver and the pterodactyls.
We get a one-off scene with the grandson being informed from the Germans that the museum called and said that the glamour had been stolen, and he's excited because he wants to move to the Gold Coast, and he felt that the museum was a burden to continue to maintain, and he's getting all excited that it was stolen, and then he starts feeling the earthquake as well, which is really at this point tearing apart Sydney. You've got lava starting to spew everywhere. You've got the harbor bridge breaking into. It's just really chaos. Jack and Ruth swoop down using Jack's jumping legs.
Yeah, jumping powers.
And
yes.
He jumps them away from the police perimeter seconds before the ground gives way and all the police officers get sucked into the lava and are incinerated. So that happens.
Benny's managed to hotwire a van, or in her words, acing it. And so the Doctor, Glob, and Benny drive off to the pyramid, whilst you've got kind of the earth cracking and lava erupting and everything. And then basically Jack becomes a grasshopper taxi for a few paragraphs, moving people right very close to the pyramid. I do wonder whether we could have had more of these scenes, because not so much Jack jumping around, but what I mean is kind of like we could have gone a little bit more into the disaster movie.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it did seem as if we all got quite neatly to the pyramid quite quickly, and then Jack, when he's doing his final leap with Glob, miscalculates, so it looks like he's going to kind of fall into the boiling water, and then Benny does a Batman-style kind of swoop with some Gatling gun or something. Oh, okay, right. And then Louis, the indigenous Australian gentleman, reappears for a cameo and then just wanders off to wherever it is that he goes to.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, it's one of those.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out what to do with the pyramid, and the ancients kind of appear as these shadowy figures, and then we start getting all of the universe starting to unravel, and things start morphing into different objects, or you have people turning into cockroaches and vice versa, and you have a reference to Gumball Jacks and the Duran album Medazzaland, which is where he gets the title from.
I'm also wondering what all those references were, because like there is a random series of like people across time, most of whom haven't been mentioned in the book. Apparently, because you see a wedding between an ice warrior and a human. At one point, in these very brief scenes, where suddenly they all get turned into, I don't know, cockroaches or something. Those two are companions of the Eighth Doctor in the Radio Times comic strip.
Yep, which Gary wrote.
Yeah.
And then we get a scene where reality is kind of unraveling, and because Benny traveled with the Doctor, she's not quite immune either, but it's affecting her less quickly, and we get a scene where she morphs into all of his previous companions. So we get all the different companions, including Cinder, and ending with
all of the audio and TV companions.
Yes,
totally bypassing any ones from the books or the comics.
True. Yeah. also bypassing. So this is set, pre-Nardole, because the Doctor's still talking about Clara, but apparently the Doctor doesn't include Handles as one of his companions, and and also the Doctor and Rory's dad, I want to say at least a few months worth of adventures, towards the end of Power of Three, where they're running off and doing things, and then I guess he doesn't count his adventures with A Christmas Carol, Scarlax, but whatever his name was, he's not counted either.
It's traditional for the Doctor to forget people when he has these kind of flashback things, isn't it? So and if he didn't, then that section would go in even longer than it does.
Yeah, it's funny too that he mentions Samson and Gemma. I think they were only in a single Doctor Who audio. They predate Charlie Pollard as Eighth Doctor companions as kind of a one-off.
Yeah.
It's a little weird. We get the Doctor kind of transporting through different places too. He visits something that's kind of like DC Comics' War World, then into a Bandril Ancients space conflict, then to Ibiza, and then
yeah. So there's an Ibiza nightclub that he took Jamie and Zoe to. Like, really?
Where's that story?
Yes.
Yeah. And then he flashes back and he gets back to 36,000 BC when the Glamour first lands, and that helps him figure out where to intercept the Glamour before all of this happens. He gets
and the Ancients are appearing throughout all of these scenes, but they're all kind of blurred in a sort of like a pixelated kind of way, which is odd. But yes,
the Doctor catches he basically makes everything return. He convinces the Ancients to kind of reset things, or that part was a little.
Yeah, so when he's in the Blue Mountains, he manages to find out from them that the Ancients dropped a key while skydiving there and pretending to be gods, and we then realise that the Ancient who dropped the key was Louis, the indigenous Australian gentleman. And then we have, as you said, we have this thing where the Ancients are saying, "Yeah, okay, we'll fix everything."
Yep. And the Doctor opens the TARDIS and catches the Glamour as it's falling to Earth, kind of meteor style. So he intercepts that, and everything kind of returns to normal. So we get a big reset button switch.
Yes.
Also, like we had last month.
Yes.
And he returns the Glamour to the pyramid. Everything kind of resets itself. Benny and her gang kind of retain their memories of the encounter, but Carrie, the Packard, because she was kind of remote, she does not. The Doctor and the TARDIS are returned to the White Rabbit on Legion, where the misadventure began. And everyone kind of says their goodbyes. Peter returns the Doctor's missing Sonic, which was broken from the pink crocodile. Carrie, like we said, didn't remember helping them. Benny and the Doctor go into the TARDIS. They travel back to visit an older version of Benny, back to Legion, where about 40 miles outside of the city, where Benny and her gang were digging sometime before. They ask her to stop digging and warn her not to dig up the time echo of the Glamour. She looks into the Doctor's eyes, and that's how she's able to be convinced that it isn't a trick. Once she makes the decision not to dig, they kind of blink out of existence. And the Doctor and the future Benny do, and then they blow up the dig site instead. The ending kind of means that they didn't end up meeting with the 12th Doctor after all, except at the very end where she sees the TARDIS disappear. So that was a little confusing to me, because a few paragraphs earlier it said they blinked out of existence, but then she also gets the Doctor leaving via TARDIS. So I felt it was kind of a confusing note to end on, but that's how it ended.
Yeah, because I kind of got the impression that Benny was that the kind of the future Benny was still with the Doctor at the end, but I was just kind of like, well, what happens to her? Because I recently watched, there's a Deep Space Nine episode, Visionary, featuring it's kind of very O'Brien centric, and he ends up in a kind of like a time pooly sort of thing. It all gets very timey-wimey. And at the end of that, slight spoilers for a 24-year-old episode of Deep Space Nine, his future self ends up surviving, but the character we've been watching throughout ends up dying. Okay.
There's a Star Trek Voyager episode that's similar too, where I think Harry Kim from one timeline ends up dying, and they end up taking the Harry from another timeline, and they of course never mention it again.
No. They never mention it again. I suspect that O'Brien is a from the future version. I do wonder, how does he drop Benny back? Because there would be two Bennys or something.
Yeah. Last month I was kind of curious to see whether River was mentioned, and of course, right on the back cover, you get the quote about the archaeologist not being the one you were expecting, and kind of we do get plenty of mentions of River and Stormcage and the Papal Mainframe, but I want a character study of River and Benny, kind of comparing and contrasting them, working side by side together or against each other, because I think you could really flesh out the similarities and differences between the two of them, and I don't think that has been written yet, and that would be something I'd really want to read.
Yeah, because I'm curious as to how this could have been done with River, because the Benny flavors do come quite to the fore with her gang, because like normally when you have like a heist story, there's a bit of kind of tension because you're like, oh, which of these characters are going to be good? Is somebody going to betray the gang? And you don't really have that, because with kind of Benny's supporting cast, you assume that nothing incredibly dramatic is going to happen that would have to be referenced in future audios, as I was kind of alluding to earlier. But so maybe it might have been a bit more kind of heisty, a kind of a River version of this story.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would have played out or worked, because like you said, the elements end up using are so tied into the Benny universe and what's happened before in those audios and stuff. I'm wondering too, with a couple of loose threads, so like the reference to the 36th century, the group studying, arguing about the glamour, and then Lou, the person who was revealed to be one of the ancients, he alluded to a few points that something was coming in the Doctor's future. I couldn't tell if that was the third and final book in the Glamour Chronicles that he was referencing, or if it was the events of, say, like Hellbent and Heaven Sent that he kind of knew about. It's hard to say. Because
Clara in this book is still because she's mentioned, so the Doctor remembers her, and so it's obviously kind of Clara is off kind of teaching people at Coal Hill. She's on a work day during this story.
And that would have been really interesting too, to see, if Clara was in it, have some scenes with her and Benny interacting. I think that would have been really interesting. It probably would have been, one too many characters in what already feels like an overcrowded kind of shorter book. Yeah, I was thinking it probably took place somewhere between Last Christmas and Magician's Apprentice. It could have been earlier or later too, but that's kind of what I was thinking in my head in terms of how big is the Doctor's hair.
Because there's no reference to sunglasses.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm kind of assuming that it's I think you've hit the nail on the head with when this happens.
The glamour itself, we touched on too, is more of a MacGuffin. They may as well called it unobtainium.
Yeah.
It could have been anything. I felt like this was more about untangling the mess of kind of bootstrap paradoxes that were created by the group seeking the MacGuffin.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about how you would rate this one?
For me, I'm toying. Okay, I'll go for a 7. It's kind of borderline. I think last month's was a kind of a high 7. I think this is a low 7. But I mean, it's enjoyable. It's fun. It's a Christmas romp. But there are things that could be, because I don't necessarily get much of a feel of the characters and things, but it's kind of competently written. It goes along at sort of a bit of pace and everything, but I don't like it when books hit the reset button quite as hard as this does. But when Sydney started being destroyed, it was obvious to me that well, it's all going to be reset. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I probably not quite as generous with this one. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Did a good job in giving us the necessary backstory. He filled in, basic character motivations without feeling like you had to read the past 40 or so Benny novels or listen to the last 50 or so audios that had come before. And he provides enough hints that there are a few stories that he mentioned that I want to hear, like how Peter lost his boyfriend to vampiric forces in the slaver pit. I might check that one out. I really liked Lisa Bowerman's performance in the audiobook. I enjoyed her kind of take on Capaldi. You can kind of feel the history she has with the character right from the get-go. It's just effortless. A few times in the audio, there were moments of advanced knowledge where a scene was set and it was raining outside, but it wouldn't mention in the scene, that it was raining for several pages. But you already get that detail because that's how the scene started. I'm not sure if I'm kind of a fan of that sort of foreknowledge or not, but it happened enough in the audio where it was remarkable. I liked the idea behind the book, that the crossover between Benny and the 12th Doctor era. Like I said, I would have liked to have seen her interact with Clara or River, or have gotten some of her reactions to the TARDIS interior. I felt there were a lot of opportunities that were missed for kind of cool moments.
Yeah, you've convinced me. 6.
Okay.
It's a 6. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I listened to the first chapter something like 5 times just because I wanted to. It was so confusing, and that was where I kind of flipped back and forth between the book and the audio the most. It kind of felt like playing with Russian nesting dolls, where you're watching someone work their way backwards out of a maze that they had constructed, or a video game level they had designed. It just wasn't super interesting in that respect to me. And then the ending, like you had mentioned, with the reset button being right out of the TV movie, or Engines of War, or Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, where it's an actual reset button. I have to say, I'm really, really looking forward to when we eventually get a straightforward base under siege type story to read that doesn't end with a reset button.
Yes.
I did enjoy all of the descriptions of Australia, and the detail. The characterization of Lou, like you mentioned, was somewhat problematic. The planetary gimmicks for Legion and Aztec Moon, too similar and kind of too confusing. I'm a bit of an astronomy buff, so when I read that Legion had a light dark terminus and Aztec Moon had a damp side, dry side, it's an interesting concept. The 7 planets that were recently discovered around the TRAPPIST system, about 40 light years from Earth, all of those are thought to be tidally locked with their sun, which is a red dwarf, meaning that one side of the planet's always facing the sun and would get really hot, and the other side facing away would get really cold. But there could be life along the strip running vertically around the planet in a very narrow habitable zone called the planetary terminus. And if you found yourself living there, you'd experience perpetual sunrise or sunset. The sun would never stop setting, which would be really cool. But we don't get any details like that in his description of either of the planets. So to me, again, that was kind of a bit of a wasted opportunity. So overall, I think Gary's great. Love his contributions to the Doctor Who universe. This one, unfortunately, not my favorite.
I think for me, possibly my mark might have been lifted by the Aussie stuff, just because I spent time out there and I could tell, he clearly had spent time there as well, because quite a few of those observations, are ones, yeah, that I've kind of made similar stuff to. I've not spent anywhere near as much time in Sydney as he has, but yeah. So it was. I think that kind of like local touch helped for me.
Local knowledge.
Yeah. And the Blue Mountains are a fantastic place, and so if, as it says in the back of the book, if anybody gets a chance to go and see it, because the Three Sisters, which is this rock formation that the Glamour crashes into, those are real. And whilst I've not actually been to those, there are many spectacular, weird rock formations out in the Australian kind of wildernessy bits and stuff.
Do you happen to know what the there was a reference to the Tunguska event, which was the meteor in Siberia, and like do you know? And it was the Doctor and Benny involved in that. Do you know what that was a reference to? Just something I didn't catch.
I don't know, because the Doctor and Liz Shaw were there in one of the David McKenzie books, and I can't remember which. Yeah, I don't know which where the Benny reference is from it.
One final just little continuity thing that I didn't realize, but I found out later, was this book solves multiple continuity issues with Professor Arthur Candy. So Professor Candy works at Luna University, and he first appeared in Stephen Moffat's Continuity Errors, which was the short story for Decalogue 3, and that's set in 2643. Professor Candy also shows up in the Oh No It Isn't audio nearly 50 years earlier.
Right.
But then in the TV series, River meets up with Professor Candy in the 52nd century on the Luna University, and I guess there's a reference to him in one of the video game tie-ins that came out too. So Gary solves this in the book by referencing that Professor Candy has multiple clones over time, not unlike Cylons or I was thinking of like Patton Oswalt's character on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hank and Dean Venture in the Venture Brothers. It was one of those references that I looked up and I was like, oh, I had no idea that Professor Candy was a thing that needed solving.
Yeah, I must say that entire reference had just totally passed me by. I didn't realise that that kind of the Moffat era, etc., had its own unit dating controversy type thing. So yeah, right.
All right. Anything else you want to say about this book? I think we've talked about it almost as long as the
audio is. It's always nice to see Bandrels rocking up. I'll just say that of all of the species, as they have a spaceship. They mentioned the Bandrels? Okay, right. Yes. If you don't know what Bandrel is, I would say go and watch Time Lash, but maybe don't go watch Time Lash.
Go read the Target novelization of it instead.
Yeah.
So we have some listener mail and some feedback to share.
Cool.
So last month, it turns out we missed some stuff that George Mann has done. George has written for Titan Comics, including the 8th Doctor miniseries and Supremacy of the Cybermen. He's also written audiobooks for the 12th Doctor, 2 of the Winter audio miniseries, and 2 of the Lost miniseries. So I guess there's 8 or so Doctor audios that are out.
Okay.
He also wrote one of the Trenzalore tales, which it turns out I actually read, about Krynoids attacking the Trenzalore colony. And incidentally, Tales from Trenzalore I think would make a good December book for future Christmases, as would the 12 Doctors of Christmas, and I think Big Finish has some short trip Christmas collections. So we don't have any email yet, but we do have some tweets and some feedback to share. So we've got Ian on Twitter asked us if the podcast is being carried on iTunes. It is, and he thought it was awesome that it was starting back up again. He wanted to know if we were going to review St. Anthony's Fire at some point, which we had talked about previously.
Yes.
We will be getting to that one eventually, along with Christmas on a Rational Planet. So thank you, Ian, for that. Josh from the Oncoming Storm podcast sent us a message wishing us luck in our podcast endeavor, and he says he appreciates the work we're putting into it.
Cool. Good. Thank you.
Sean from the TARDIS Tavern and other podcasts thanked us for taking up the gauntlet. I'm not sure if that means we have to have a duel now or not. He's also glad that we filled this niche and we're expanding the remit beyond the 4 ranges covered in the original version of the podcast. So thank you, Sean, for your kind comments. Stephen from Radio Free Scaro gave us a shout out.
Awesome.
He gave us a shout out at the end of one of their recent Gallifrey episodes, at the end of episode 570, I think. So thank you very much, Radio Free Scaro and Stephen, for doing that. We appreciate it. And then 2 more little tweets. Ken from Twitter commented as he was listening to the first episode that the Pertwee plaque that we were talking about, he had mentioned that was only unveiled just last year, and he said that there was an event at the theater with a few guests. Not sure who attended, but he said he was able to get some of his DVDs signed at the event. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, cool.
And then AM Moore from Twitter says, "Nice work, chaps. He enjoyed the first episode, and he's looking forward to many, many more."
Cool. So that brings us on to what we're going to be doing next.
Yes.
So you want to tell the lovely folks at home?
Sure. So next month, our pick was made by one of our listeners, who we will hopefully will be joining us for our May podcast. We haven't done an 11th Doctor story yet, and the person who selected this book will probably be very familiar to the listeners of the Book Club podcast. So be sure to tune in next month to find out who that is.
Yes.
We'll be reading an 11th Doctor Amy and Rory novel called The Silent Stars Go By, which is written by Dan Abnett. I think of it as having just come out, but then I checked the publication date, and it was published in September of 2011, so it's almost 6 years old already. Time really does fly. It was reissued in 2013 in paperback for the 50th anniversary range with a different cover. I'm flipping through the book now, and it turns out it's dedicated to George Mann. So funny how things come full circle.
Yes.
There's also an unabridged audio version, about 6 hours long, read by Michael Maloney, who I guess has done some voice work for Big Finish and some other BBC audios. And we should mention, too, that with this book selection, it might be a nice tie-in with some of the baddies in the novel will be on the current season of the television show, which will be starting this weekend. So that's The Silent Stars Go By, an 11th Doctor book by Dan Abnett for the May 2017 selection.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, until next month, I've been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading.
For listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. You can contact the show and follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast. Our music is the Doctor Who theme, Swing Jazz version by George C. Music, used with attribution under Creative Commons license. Until next month, happy reading.